You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast. Two friends since waking up early for one Saturday morning, now guides in your nostalgic tour of Disney history, one magical film at a time. I'm JB Waggoner.
And I'm Eddie Ferguson. And on today's episode, we don coonskin hats and buckskin jackets as we review Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier.
So fasten that safety restraint and pull up on the yellow strap. It's time to open the vault.
Cue that Disney sound effect.
Eddie, you've been dying for this. You've been like scratching and clawing to get us to do as many Davy Crockett things as possible, singing the song all week.
It's stuck in your head, isn't it?
Oh, 1,000%. It's stuck in my head. And I'm pretty sure it is very different from the only part I remembered accurately was Davy Crockett. And I had everything else wrong. I don't even know what I was singing before, but when I heard this, I was like, oh, that's how it's really supposed to go? Because that's the song. That's all I remember about the song.
Yeah, folks, if you hear nothing other from this week's episode, it's almost a cautionary tale of how catchy a theme song can be. And a great tactic is when you know you have a catchy theme song, just put it all throughout the movie. Everywhere in the movie. I think that is it's already a catchy tune, but they come back to that little lick every 10, 15 minutes. Like it is the narrator of the movie. So it's like, just in case you were beginning to forget this, let's sing it one more time. Let's pull this right around. And oh yeah, I last night was humming it as I'm brushing my teeth. I'm like humming it in my head as I'm trying to fall asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night and boom, like the song jumps into my head. I wonder if this is part of the reason why this just became such a cultural phenomenon, is that the song itself is just so strong. So let me break this down and set the scene. JB is right. I was very excited to review this. I loved Davy Crockett as a kid. I had my, little frontierman's rifle, coonskin hat, everything, buckskin jacket and all. And so I was very excited to review this. But to set the stage, because I think this it connects well to last week's episode. Last week's episode, we went over how Walt Disney is trying to build Disneyland. This is his next big dream. He's more or less kind of done with the movie business, been there, done that. Now his big thing to conquer is theme parks. He doesn't have the money for it, right? So he pitches to the major TV studios, if you co-sign this loan with me, in essence, I'll produce TV shows for you. NBC's the big studio says no. CBS, the second biggest, says no. ABC, the brand new one that's barely hanging in there, goes, sure, we just need content, we'll do it. So they sign all these loans and everything to get Disney the money for Disneyland, and he has to produce this TV show, which also creates revenue. He's got this crazy idea. Each episode, we're going to visit a different land within Disneyland. And so each episode is going to be centered around that. Fantasyland, he's got covered. He's got tons of these fairy tales that he can just kind of edit and make for TV. Adventureland's pretty easy as well for them. They've been doing these nature documentaries for a number of years. They've become known for them, so there's the content. But he really wants a land in Disneyland called Frontierland that kind of celebrates the mythical imagery that we have as the wild frontier, the wild, wild west of the American settlement. But he doesn't have any content to show in his TV show for this. And so we come to Davy Crockett. They decide for whatever reason that they're going to pick Davy Crockett, who's a known kind of character from American history. Not
real person, by the way. We had to revisit that when we rewatched it. We're like, this is real, right? He was an actual person. This isn't like Paul Bunyan. Although, is he real? Was he? I forget. Anyways.
But you're getting into it. Yeah, I mean, you get the idea. And so they produce initially 3 episodes from late 1954 into 1955 that are around Davy Crockett. The first part is, them in the Indian Creek Wars. The second episode was him going off to Congress. And then the third episode is Davy Crockett at the Alamo. And they're so wildly popular that they put them together and they create Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier.
Oh.
That's how we get the movie that we are looking at here today. It is actually 3 TV episodes put together into one film after they were hugely, hugely popular. And we'll touch on that later in the episode. But they put it together and then they released it on film. It has a huge life on VHS, which I think that's, of course, where I found it. And the rest is history. And we've watched it for your listening pleasure.
What was your favorite childhood moment from watching this as a kid?
I think for me, the first third, right? The Indian Wars, these are, I think this is, that, mythical almost understanding. Like it's kind of, it's of course, a rosy coloring of history.
A little bit.
a little bit. But that's just kind of that general idea of the frontier, and even they're creating a homestead, and he does the shooting competition with Bigfoot something. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was like Bigfoot something. All of those types of things, I always love.
And the bullet is in the identical place as the other one.
Probably my favorite moment, right? When they pull out the 2 bullets and he's put one inside the bullet hole of the other, and he wins the cow.
So we get a appearance from his sidekick in this, is played by Buddy Ebsen, who is from Beverly Hillbillies.
We'll go on to Beverly Hillbillies.
Yes. When I saw him, I was like, oh, they cast the same guy as Davy Crockett. And I thought, oh, that's I've seen that guy before. And then something's happening in the bush, and then he's like, Davy's in there. And I'm like, are you just like playing games with him? What is going on here? Why are you telling him that? Are you trying to get him to go in there where the bear's at? And then you hear the muffled, the fight between Davy Crockett and the bear, and he tumbles out. He's like, I tried to stare the bear down.
Grin him down.
Grin him down. And I was like, oh, that's what this movie is going to be. That's what this thing is all going to be about. I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for this, but yeah, that the fighting the bear in the bush was the first, like, that's right out of the gate, and I'm just like, oh,
it's such a great introduction to the character, right? It's just like, oh, this is what I'm in store for. No, and I have to say, my lineage is from the Ozark Mountains of Missouri, right? So there's a lot of hillbilly blood in me.
You felt seen watching
so
this?
There's a part where I watch some of these and I'm like, yeah, I there's not a stretch of imagination to see myself like, yeah, donning some buckskin jackets and just going and living in the woods. I'm
surprised you didn't pull yours out from your childhood and just like having that sit on your head.
If I was in Indiana, for a fact I would have rummaged through the tote and pulled it out. Because I still have it. Yeah. And the cap gun and you name it. Yeah. Bought in Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri.
Oh, 1,000%. How much did you love the use of nature videography inside of this? Specifically the crocodile attack, where they like cut between them play fighting with something in the water, and then you'd cut to crocodiles, like actual crocodiles, like attacking in the wild, and they tried to intercut it together, and it was so unbelievable.
Honestly, it's very reminiscent of some action sequences that some high school filmmakers that we are acquainted with may have or may not have created back in the day. That's what I felt like, right? Like, this is just... Am I
watching Beowulf right now?
Am I watching, some guys who just got an iMac and figuring out how to edit an iMovie? Because there's an element where you're like, okay, this is really creative. This is the forefront of television, right? This is one of the earliest television shows, and action sequences. There's an element where I'm like, okay, for the time, like if you put yourself back in that time, you're going, okay, it's not that bad. Nowadays, we look at it and we're going, okay, this is cheesy.
I mean, at least they didn't stuff a person in a gator costume and make him fight that way. I guess that is worse.
If we had another human being in an animal suit, I think we would be wetting ourselves right now in laughter.
Oh, it would have led the whole podcast. I'd have been like, let's just talk about the gator because this is incredible.
But I think it's resourceful to a certain degree, right? Like I had already mentioned, Disney had been making tons of these nature documentaries. We're going to look at one here in a couple of weeks. Yeah. And it's just like, hey, we've got the footage. Let's use it. I think there's a sequence with some black bears that's obviously, okay, your frame rate's different. This is borrowed from somewhere else. This is not. I do think what is interesting, kudos to Disney. They filmed this on location in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee.
Yeah.
They filmed this in color, even though it's only going to be broadcast in black and white. Like, there's some forethought. There's some thinking through all of this. The production value on this, outside of the cheesy nature documentary being spliced in, is really, really great. Like, there's some beautiful shots of Tennessee that hold up.
You know what doesn't hold up is most all of the action sequences in this, when they're like stabbing a guy multiple times and there's no blood, no injury, nothing like in his back. The most of the hand-to-hand combat is
when they got the fisticuffs up and it's like the wrists are pointed out as they're like fighting. I'm like, I thought, don't elbows kind of go out a little bit and you want to get that fist forward, not like it's out. I don't even know how to describe what they do there.
And that should have been the best of all the hand-to-hand combat, because the rest of it is like giant fight scenes with Native Americans and the settlers and the everybody else. But then even the the hand-to-hand stuff, which should have been the easiest, of just two dudes going at it.
So awkward.
That one was so awkward.
The tomahawk fight. The fist fight with Bigfoot, whoever that I can't remember. It's just.
But my favorite is definitely when they're in the battle and they start losing or whatever, and the general takes his pipe and breaks it in half. And they're just
we have ESPN tonight, because that is exactly what I was going to say too. Oh my goodness.
That's the best moment in the entire thing, probably, for me.
He just tosses it. Like
he just breaks it in a fury. Just so mad, and throws it, and I was just like, that's the most accurate piece of this entire movie right there.
I am laughing so hard at that sequence, and Lewis is sitting next to me and he's like, what, Daddy? What was so funny? What just happened? Like He obviously doesn't think it's that funny.
He was mad, and so he broke. He broke his pipe. What
and
else
then I
would
started
you do
laughing hysterically again because it's not too long later that we're back with General Jackson, and he whips out like an identical pipe and starts smoking it, and that's all I can think of. Like, is he gonna snap it this time? Is he gonna break it in half this time?
Prop team was ready on this one.
They were ready.
They were ready for this.
I think it's also worth mentioning here. I'm not always the biggest fan of the cultural insensitivity warnings at the front of Disney movies. Like, sometimes I feel like it's a little, too much. It's not necessary. I think this is a time that it was appropriate. Honestly, I walked away going, this is on Disney Plus and Song of the South isn't? Really? Like, mind you, I enjoyed this more than Song of the South. But it was like, we find Song of the South more culturally insensitive than this? Okay.
The whole thing, it's weirdly like trying to be pro Native American. Like,
sure, because Davy Crockett was. Yeah, I mean, historically speaking.
And he like stands up for them. He has his Mr. Smith goes to Washington moment.
Yeah.
But no. it's just not enough.
No, and yeah, you're looking at some of the casting going, but apparently they worked with a Native American
they thank the
group.
tribes at the front of it. Now, if the tribes were thankful for Disney working with them, we don't know. We don't have. It's a one-sided affair. It's
Thank you.
But okay, so I'm gonna be honest right now. I know this is going to come to a shocker to you, Eddie.
What?
But I might have fallen asleep watching this movie. So I got through the first third. Maybe it was the pack of Albanese gummy bears that I had eaten in watching this movie.
Don't talk to me about Albanese gummy bears.
Oh, man. Which you brought me on to. Thank you very much. That's why we're
great state of Indiana.
I fell asleep and then woke up and he's in Congress. It was a little bit of a jolt to go from like on the wild frontier, doing all of his things, going home to his wife, coming back, fighting these groups, winning over the fighting hand to hand with Red Chief, and then waking up and he's in freaking Congress and he's rushing for a floor vote. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. What is going on? Why did we jump the shark this much? But no, he actually was in Congress. Eddie, anything specific you want to call out about that?
I think I don't. Well, let me just state this for the record. I am by no means a Davy Crockett historian. I didn't know if that needed to be stated or not, but there it is.
Okay.
But to the best of my knowledge and my reading, that sequence, like that whole second episode of him in Congress, is really accurate. Actually, is accurately portrayed to actual historical events, because all of the other parts, him at the Alamo, him on the wild frontier, I mean, those are all from tall tales he would tell, right? So Crockett becomes kind of this larger than life hero in folklore, in part because he ran for Congress. So when he ran for Congress, I mean, and he was a frontiersman, he did fight in the Indian Creek Wars under Jackson, like all of that was very accurate. But when he goes to run for Congress, he purposely dresses in a buckskin jacket and a coonskin hat to not look like a greasy politician. And he is brought in under, with Jackson because they had known each other. And a part of his campaigning, he tells these folksy stories of him out on the frontier to kind of help sell his campaign. What is unknown is how truthful these are. You know, we all know how a man can tell a tall tale,
spin a yarn.
So that's kind of where he gets known for his persona, is actually him running for Congress. So he serves 2 terms, and it is accurate in the film. He opposes Jackson and the expansion law that he wants to put out there. And they purposefully bring him down, and he loses his seat as a result of all of that. It's also accurate that he did fight in the Alamo. Like, that is true. No, it's not known exactly how or, you know, in what part of the Alamo battle that he did die. This kind of aggrandizes him as he's like the last man standing.
We never see him. We never see him die. If this was a series, there could have been future episodes, and he could have shown up later on.
Which there are. This is so wildly popular that they do 2 more episodes.
Kill him off in glorious fashion, and then he's back. He's just back.
And if you would like to, you can watch those 2 episodes. It's called Davy Crockett and the River Pirates, which you can stream now on Disney+. We will not be reviewing those here.
No.
You notice I only put 1. I could have done both in this, but I didn't.
Well, you kind of did 3. You kind of did 3.
Sure. It's 1 film though, right? It was released later, but yeah, neither here nor there. So yeah, you did not wake up to some fever dream. He actually was a U.S. congressman from your state of residency.
Now I want to see, like, where's his hometown?
This should be a Waggoner homeschool project where you guys
Limestone, Tennessee.
You guys need to do a whole section on Davy Crockett. This is a part of your state's history.
You can go visit his cabin. I've never been anywhere near. Hold up, I don't even know what city. What city are we even near this? Oh, near Johnson City, middle, just middle. Dead middle. Well, no, I guess it's near it's East Tennessee, super east. Okay, well, there we go. If I do I was telling you before, Eddie, if I ever do my northeast Boston drive up there,
leaf peeping trip.
Yep. Oh, Daniel Boone. That's
Daniel Boone. Yeah,
Daniel Boone.
Kentucky. He's Kentucky.
Okay. Daniel Boone, like, there's just so many, I don't even know what to, like, frontiersmen. I get them all mixed up, and which ones are real, which ones are. Is Paul Bunyan real? Is he real, or is he a tall tale?
No, he was a real man, but his tale, like the tale of him, has definitely gone to a mythical level. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you remember we watched Tall Tale, another Disney movie?
How many of that was actually real, though? That's what I want to know.
Not much.
The hammering, all that stuff.
No, you're touching on something, though, that I think modern Americans forget. Like, the West, the frontier, was not, Colorado, Montana, Wyoming. It was Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. These were the wild frontier. This is why we call the Midwest, because it was West. It was the Western territories for the longest time. It's not until post-Civil War that starts shifting, that mentality, and it's actually westward of the Mississippi.
What I am amazed by is how we've gone this long without talking about the kiss with Davy Crockett's wife and Buddy Ebsen. I forget what his name is in the real thing, but when they go home and he kisses Davy's wife, and she's like, "What was that for?" It's like, Davy said I could kiss you because I saved his life. well, bring her here. And then it's like even more. And then Davy has to be like, well, no, let me show you how to kiss her. And then it's just like,
you're not going to get your
on?
own wife with kissing like that.
Kissing like that. And I'm like, this is the first thing that would get cut out of a 2024 version of this film, let alone all of the Native American stuff. You're right. I was just like, wow. Like we had to at least mention this super weird.
So
out of nowhere.
You bring up.
Is that accurate?
It is out of nowhere. No, it's funny you bring up Davy Crockett's wife. This was probably the most contentious part of the movie for Lewis, because he did watch this with me. And there's the scene where he gets the letter that his wife dies of fever. Lewis it's derailed. What? People can die from fevers? So we've got to pause it. We've got to talk through modern medicine, doctors, these things didn't exist. So
this is traumatic for him.
This is traumatic. He's trying to he's like, okay. So we're talking, we live in a really blessed time where we have Tylenol, we've got to go through all of these things. And then he's like, but then what about Davy's sons? Why isn't he going back to his sons? So the rest of the film, he's going, but what about his sons? Who's got his sons? This is all Lewis can think about for the rest of it. So I'm like, well, maybe I thought we're going to have conversations about, Native Americans and fighting bears and whatever. No, it's, how do you die from fevers?
Rules of legislation.
Why doesn't he go back to his boys? I'm like, well, I don't know. The movie doesn't talk about that part.
And grinning bears. I do like at the very end when when the book closes. We always love a good book closing ending, and it just says at the bottom. It says Davy Crockett at the very bottom. It says, written by himself. I'm like, the dude died. He couldn't have written that part of it, the whole alumn part of it. But it's just like it just reeked of what we think of these mythological characters. They wrote their own story. They were their own man. They wrote their own biography about themselves. And I'm assuming a lot of this is from his journals and his stories in Congress and stuff. But I was just like, that's the touch we needed to end this story.
Yeah, I mean, they touch on a little bit in the movie. There was these, short stories written about him. He became this larger than life character for many years, and these tales just kind of got spun more. But it's crazy. But what's interesting, Davy Crockett was not a well-known American folklore character prior to these TV episodes, right? He is just one of many that you may have heard of here or there, but in no way would people pull his name out of a hat quicker than anybody else. Nowadays, if you were to kind of go, hey, who's a famous, frontiersman, who is, I mean, you're going to hear some Daniel Boone, but Davy Crockett is more or less a household name when we think of some of that was not the case prior to 1955. It is this TV show that skyrockets Davy Crockett to a whole nother level. They call it the Crocket-Craze. In 1955, when this starts coming out, it becomes the American obsession for kids.
The raccoon population plummets.
So you're not joking. The raccoon pelt market increases by 3,000% in a matter of months. So much so, they can no longer produce coonskin hats with actual raccoon pelts. They have to start looking for other animals that will mimic it, plastic imitations of it. All of these different things start going down. So you are correct. The raccoon population does plummet by the tune of 3,000%.
We just don't have enough trash pandas. Just not enough trash pandas for everybody.
I know. So let me give you just some numbers here because it blows my mind. Okay. In 1955, 1956, when this Crocket-Craze is going on, 10% of all kids' clothes sold in the United States, clothes, are Davy Crockett themed. 10% of all. Okay?
Wow.
They sell over $300 million worth of Crocket merchandise. In 1955, you ready for adjusted with inflation? JB, that is $3.4 billion in merchandise. Okay? We're talking like as big as, if not bigger than Frozen.
Wow.
Just to make a modern, understanding of when we talk about Crocket-Craze, like this is not like, oh yeah, no, this was everywhere. This dominated everything.
And like Frozen, it had a great theme song.
To
get stuck in your head.
It comes back to it. It comes back to the theme song. Yeah, I mean, it is huge, right? So what does this do? It makes the Disneyland TV show what it was meant to do. Like, it sells Disneyland. It makes Disney it's Davy Crockett that really, this is of all things, this is the pivot point. What's interesting is nobody anticipated this. Like, this was a throwaway show. This was, hey, we need something for, how we said we're going to do a Frontierland episode. We need a Frontierland episode. Pick a character. Who should we do? Davy Crockett. Okay. Boom. Go to Smoky Mountains, film it. It's all just get it done. Let's just get the content in. So Disney is caught off guard. They're not the ones making all this money in merchandising. This is anybody and everybody who's just like, and Davy Crockett is not trademarked. He's a historical figure. So anybody can slap Davy Crockett on anything and boom, kids are buying it. Kids are doing it. So Disney isn't making this money hand over fist. The guy who plays Davy Crockett, I can't remember his name. He's not getting any royalties from any of this because his agreement is like a handshake agreement with Walt Disney himself.
Oh. So
it's like all of this is going on and Disney's not making Frozen level money like they did. This is one of the lessons that Disney learns is like, the money's in merchandise. The money's in selling the t-shirts and the little rifles and hats and stuff. So they could have paid, for Disneyland with just merchandise from this just alone. Hats. If just hats, 3,000%. The market on raccoon pelts goes up by 3,000%. In the months following the release of the second episode. That's crazy.
And they would never make that mistake again.
No. And so we have Frontierland, right? Like this is, and it is the anchor of, that side of the park. It becomes even at Disney World. You get, I think they eventually rename it to the Davy Crockett Canoes. I don't know if that's still the case at Disneyland, the canoes, if they're the Davy Crockett Canoes. But it sparks this craze. The rest of the 50s is all about westerns and frontier type adventures.
Perfectly timed for that. And so you said in the parks, obviously we've got all of Frontierland. There's nods to it. The Davy Crockett canoes. Anything else inside of the parks that is done by this, other than the fact that we get an entire Frontierland?
Yeah, there's no other like specific attraction. There's like a few the campground that we like to stay at there has a Crockett's Tavern. There's a few other kind of small things like that named after it, but the most significant attraction is the canoes. But I also do think it's not too much of a stretch to be like Frontierland, right? Is also
it's his land.
Is his land, is where he's got it.
Before we do our rating, I do want to call out some of my favorite one-liners from this thing.
I didn't even write them down because I was like, there's just too many. You knew
I'd grab some.
And I knew you'd have it.
Rations aren't what you're short on. It's brains. Then we get my light went out. Finally died. We get when they're trying to go home for their for a vacation, basically. When they volunteer to fight, they fight. When they volunteer to go home, they go home. It's like, what are we going to do with these guys? When they come back and they said they can't do something, they say, well, looks like we're going to have to start disobeying orders again. Government lie. Davy Crockett, don't lie. When he's trying to negotiate with them. Yeah, those are some of my favorite little one-liners.
He's
from the
kind
show.
of a walking one-liner, right? Like almost everything he says is in one way or another some type of a one-liner.
Or it's trying to be, at least.
Yeah.
Like he's almost saying it knowing this could be a tweet. Much before tweets.
Oh, well, this is an interesting rating because it is one of those things that I think sitting in 2024, looking back, watching this is definitely a whole different experience. But I'm going to try and be somewhat fair to this, and I'm going to give it a 2. I'm going to say this is interesting. I don't know if I would put this on the must-watch list, even for maybe even Disney history buffs. I think you can pick up enough from just hearing the story, but I don't know. What about you? Are you going to go lower or higher than interesting?
I feel like, Eddie, you are tempering your own love for this film, knowing that I'm going to come in the bottom rung back in the vault. And you're just like, well, I don't want to seem too eager and weird, so I'm going to go a 2 when maybe your heart says you want to put number 3.
Maybe. We'll see in the weeks to come if Lewis loved this. So there is a high likelihood, minus the wife dying from a fever, we may pull this back out.
Yeah, I'm going 1. We're just gonna slide this one, not shove it back in, but just like thank you for your
bless your
time,
heart.
Bless your heart. We're gonna go back in the vault with you for Davy Crockett and the Wild Frontier. Yes. But now that we are filled up on some nostalgia, let's talk about a few Disney news items, including one thing that we didn't cover that actually came out the week before. But we decided last week was really heavy loaded with all of the new Disney plans and strategies and things happening that, Eddie, we missed over. We didn't talk about their new venture into games.
Yeah. So this is nothing new for Disney. About every 10 to 12 years, Disney goes, oh, gaming is a really big thing. Should we get involved in gaming? And then they try and do something, and they don't really make a wholehearted effort into it. And so, of course, it doesn't work out that great. This seems like maybe they're thinking about a wholehearted effort. Disney is to invest $1.5 billion. Again, that's just less than half of what Davy Crockett made. So, this isn't that much money. invest $1.5 billion in Epic Games. We know Epic Games from such popular games like Fortnite. And not only are they investing in it, but this investment will bring them an equity stake in the company, which means that there will be some other interesting potentials. And that's kind of where I think this is interesting. Disney, particularly Lucasfilms, has used Epic Games before with their Real Engine. I don't know if you know more about that. I don't know too much of the technicalities there with Real Engine, but that's what they use in The Volume when they filmed like shows like The Mandalorian. That's kind of what creates the sequences behind them. They also worked with Epic Games and utilized their Real Engine for Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run in Galaxy's Edge.
So it's Unreal Engine is the
Unreal
name of it.
There you go. See, I knew you'd know more about this than me.
Yeah, Epic. So basically every game system in the world to some degree I'm pretty sure uses Unreal Engine. And yes, all of this virtual production stuff are the groups that I've worked with. They're all been testing it, test driving it. Any of the volume, those kinds of things that are used to film more practically, but with LED screens, they all use their technology. They are the top of the top of the top of the top when it comes to any of this. So it's it's not shocking that Disney would want to invest in them. The technology not only works for games, but also works for film, like we talked about. But this is also a pivot for Disney because they did try to bring in a lot of games in-house and try to make their own mark. What is happening? There's something happening.
Oh, you're coming back. I lost you for a little bit.
There we go. So this is a big pivot for them because they tried making games in-house. They even acquired some games, and now they're kind of having to shift because it hasn't really worked that well. They haven't really broken through with anything that big, and so I think they've decided, hey, we're going to more invest in the people who are doing really, really awesome things instead, and let's get out of trying to figure it out all ourselves. So it is a pivot, but it also, and maybe they're acknowledging that they are kind of not done, but like moving on from trying to do it all themselves by doing this investment in Unreal.
Well, this is also a power play. Like I said, the $1 billion investment also brings them an equity stake in the company, which means they will now know who and how Epic Games is working with other companies. So let's say, I don't know, a theme park company down the road is developing a brand new Harry Potter ride by chance, and they decide to use Unreal Engine for this. They now know how that's being used. Or, if Warner Brothers is going to utilize some type of Unreal Engine for production in a new series or movie they're doing, Disney's going to have access to understand that.
Yep.
It's a very, very smart move. It's a very smart move.
And they needed to make some moves because hounds were at the gate, wolves were at the gate, asking for Disney to do something recently, and this is one of their biggest moves that they for sure make. In other news, the only other big thing that we had, I don't know if it's big, but just interesting, and I thought this would also, Eddie, as much as you love space and all things, Disney and space kind of came together here. So the former Disney Channel actress, Bridget Mendler, she was on the show Good Luck Charlie, Wizards of Waverly Place. So she decided after her time was done in the Disney bubble to go out and get a degree from MIT and Harvard, law school. And now she has started her own, she's the CEO of her own company that's going to space.
Northwood Space.
This, so they raised a little bit of funding for it. And I was having a hard time trying to figure out what exactly they do. It's like space communication with like satellites and stuff like
Starlink.
that.
This is their Starlink has got everybody in a buzz where it's like, oh, this is a huge economic opportunity, and now everybody's going to be playing catch up to Starlink.
So they just want to create their own Starlink? Is that what's happening?
I think they're being vague on purpose. The whole thing is just talking about we have our sights set on building a data highway between Earth and space. Internet, right? We are designing shared group infrastructure from first principles to expand access to space. What does any of this mean? We have a lot of work ahead of us, but that's the fun part. In other words, how can we work with existing infrastructure, the constellation of satellites surrounding us now from Starlink, to make space-based communication.
It did make me wonder, though, who are the most successful stars to come out of Disney Channel? It just kind of made me wonder, like, we've had a lot of different names come across here or there. And I'm not, even when she's like limited to the Disney Channel, like what are all of these, who's like the most famous or the most successful to come out of there? And I may have found some links for it.
So this is a good link, and I hope we just kind of quickly go through all of these because this is fascinating. Especially, I'm intrigued when number 10 is the Jonas Brothers.
Wow, that's like really, really low. I think they should be up higher, especially when the number 9 is Raven Simone.
Yeah.
Just going to say, I think the Jonas Brothers are a little bit more influential. And by the way, if you haven't watched their reality show with the two of the the two Jonases and Claim to Fame, just saying, you all got to check that out. It's amazing. But yeah, them being lower than Raven Simone, I'm sorry. I know she's been around longer, but seriously, come on, guys.
Yeah.
We got Olivia Rodrigo, who's a newer comer to the stardom, but she's definitely one of the top pop artists right now. She's definitely in the vein of Paramore. Like, there's people like, you're doing the same thing Paramore did. But I do love that Zach and Cody are on
number 7.
Number
Dylan
7.
And Cole Sprouse.
Haven't really done very much since then. I guess one of them's been in a CW show, but then Zendaya coming here at number 6. She is way more culturally relevant right now than even the Jonas Brothers. I would say. Right now.
Oh yeah, between Spider-Man and Dune alone, like she was, ever since The Greatest Showman.
Greatest Showman, her show Euphoria has been really big on HBO Max, or HBO. But then right after Zendaya is where we get some of the stalwarts that we've had for quite a while. We got Selena Gomez, who we absolutely love, and just such a good job in Only Murders in the Building. Demi Lovato. After that, here we go, Eddie. Zac Efron.
Zac Efron's number 3.
I don't know if I challenge that he's the third most. Like, it's hard because obviously we have a strong affinity for his breakout moment with High School Musical. Loved to hate to love that. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. I mean, he has had some very big movies, including the one we just talked about with Zendaya, Greatest Showman. He's definitely had some hits in there, but
if we're talking about like rising to like cultural icon type level, like I can see that. I think he's hit that.
He's been around longer than Zendaya, but I feel like she has gone farther than he has. if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. But running around the top two, we get Miley Ray Cyrus. I keep on saying that. Her dad is Billy Ray Cyrus. She is Miley Cyrus. I keep doing this wrong, and my wife is going to text me while she's listening to this. And then what's funny is they made Hillary Duff number 1 on here.
I don't get that.
She disappeared. No.
And then
I would definitely put Miley Cyrus above her. So I don't understand that. But didn't she just win a Grammy? I feel like she just won a Grammy for her latest album. But so I'm going to look that up while we're.
I can maybe understand like at the time, like when you take into account like how big they got as Disney Channel stars, like at the time, okay, like Miley Cyrus, Hillary Duff, like they were huge at the time. But honestly, for me, you could have almost just taken Hillary Duff off this list and bump everybody down, and I would have been okay with the rest of the listings, or bumped everybody else up.
She should not be number 1 on this list. I'm sorry. That was tragically over. Well, I know she came back for the spinoff of How I Met Your Father, spinoff of How I Met Your Mother, but no, she should not be.
Well, she was supposed to come back. Remember, this was the huge controversy. They wanted to make a Hillary Duff TV show, Lizzie McGuire TV show for Disney Plus. This was going to be kind of one of the first new shows out. And she had huge creative differences with Disney because she wanted to make, like what would it actually be? Where Lizzie McGuire would actually be now. And Disney wanted, of course, a Disney version of that. They wanted a more kind of Disney Channel. And there was they were in production. Like they had pilot scripts done. They had everybody together. Like they were actually filming. And there were so many huge creative differences that they just canceled the whole thing.
Oh, goodness. You know who's not on this list? Amanda Bynes.
Amanda Bynes was not a Disney person.
She wasn't?
She was Nickelodeon.
Was she?
Mm-hmm.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait a minute. So does that also mean, because the other, Shia LaBeouf,
he should be on this list. Yeah, he was.
How is he not on this list? I guess this is mostly. It is mostly interesting music. How many of these people are musical. So I think somebody's little too focused on the music here. There's some other stars. Now we need to go find some other lists. Well, that's what we'll do. In the meantime,
every week we'll bring you our ranking of Disney Channel stars. Where are they now?
Disney stars you for. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. This list is because I'm pretty sure isn't the artist who now is in Wicked, the Wicked movie, the trailer that just came out.
Ariana Grande. No,
isn't Ariana Grande?
No, she wasn't Disney.
She wasn't. She was on the Disney Channel. She's Nickelodeon. Cat Valentine.
Yeah.
Victorious. Ooh, Eddie. We're gonna have to do this crossover now, like
Disney
Nickelodeon
Channel versus
stars, because she's definitely up there.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, we're gonna have to fight about this some other time because we're
not really fighting. You're just fighting with the writer.
Fighting with
this
myself.
random article that you found.
I've already clicked away, so I can't even like badmouth the writer of it. But
CBR. Florencia Aberasturi.
Yeah, that's unfortunately we don't have time to break down her list and
why it's trash. Website CBR. I don't
trash. Anyways, so yep. But yeah, so before we go, Eddie, I hope you and the family, I hope you guys have a good week.
I hope so too. We are, every day is an adventure here. We are potty training. This is our third final potty training adventure. And it always just brings, interesting experiences and conversations where you're like, are these really words coming out of my mouth right now? Yep. Yes, they are. So we hopefully we can get through that. It's been as you would expect it. Nothing major to report quite yet, but hopefully.
I feel you. We are still in the throes of it. It's been a better week this week, but so I feel you as you venture into this new area.
In our experience, which is very limited, boys are easier than girls. That is our experience. I know that's not the case for everybody. Our daughter was near impossible. We thought we were going to pull out all the remaining hair that I have. And
not much.
But with the boys, yeah, it's been going a little bit easier. We'll see how Asa finishes it out. So that is what the rest of our week looks like. So with that, I hope you have enjoyed your weekly dose of Disney nostalgia.
Be sure to subscribe to Honey, We Made a Disney podcast wherever you listen to your other favorite podcasts, and give us a look on YouTube as well.
And while you're there, please like and leave a 5-star review and share it with your best friend.
You can also check us out at honeywemade.com, where you can see all of our nostalgic reviews of Disney movies.
And tune in next week as we review The Mickey Mouse Club, and JB sings the theme song for us.
If I can figure out where it's at. Thank you for listening, and remember, we got a responsibility to the strapping, fun-loving, britches business young bear club of a country.